Tonight, you're going to lie in bed for 8 hours straight and call it sleep. You'll set an alarm. You'll power down your phone. You'll try not to think about tomorrow. But here's what's strange. Your body doesn't actually want to sleep that way. Not for 8 hours solid. Not the way you've been taught to think sleep works. The real answer is far stranger, and it might be the reason you wake up at 3 in the morning feeling like something is wrong. For most of human history, sleep didn't look like what you're doing right now. Your ancestors didn't have the electric light bulb. They didn't have screens pulsing blue light into their eyes at midnight. They didn't have jobs that demanded they wake at the same time every single day, no matter what their body was actually telling them. And yet, somehow, they slept better than you do. Anthropologist Roger Ekirch spent 16 years combing through historical documents, diaries, letters, medical records, and found something that changed everything we think we know about sleep. Across Europe and America, from the 1500s to the 1800s, people described their sleep in a way that sounds bizarre to modern ears. They talked about their first sleep and their second sleep. They didn't sleep for 8 hours straight. Instead, they slept in 2 distinct blocks, separated by an hour or 2 of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. This wasn't insomnia. This wasn't a disorder. This was normal. This was how the human body was designed to rest. Imagine this. The sun goes down. You're tired. You lie down and sleep for 4 hours. Your body is in deep, restorative sleep. Then, around midnight, you wake up naturally. You're not jolted awake by anxiety or a racing mind. You simply wake. And for an hour or 2, you're conscious but relaxed. Some people would read by candlelight. Some would sit by the fire and think. Some would visit a neighbor. Some would make love to their partner. Then, as your body signaled that rest was calling again, you'd return to your second sleep, drifting back into unconsciousness until dawn. This pattern isn't a quirk of history. It's hardwired into your biology. Your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that controls when you feel awake and when you feel tired, doesn't actually run on a 24-hour cycle. It runs on closer to a 25-hour cycle. This means your body is constantly fighting against the arbitrariness of a 24-hour day. It wants to drift slightly later every single day, creeping toward a natural biphasic sleep pattern unless something external forces it into alignment. For thousands of years, that external force was the sun. Your body would naturally split its sleep into 2 phases, separated by a period of restful wakefulness. Then came the electric light bulb. Thomas Edison didn't just invent a way to see in the dark. He invented a way to convince your body that nighttime had ended when it actually hadn't. He invented insomnia. Before artificial light, your body followed a predictable rhythm. As the sun set, your pupils would dilate. Your melatonin would rise. That's the hormone that makes you feel sleepy. Your core body temperature would drop. Your metabolism would slow. These aren't suggestions, they're commands written into your DNA by millions of years of evolution. For the first time in human history, you're living in a world where those commands are being contradicted by switches on your walls. Consider what happens to your brain when you look at a screen at night. Blue light, the kind that comes from your phone, your laptop, your television, tells your eyes that it's still daytime. Your brain receives this signal and pauses melatonin production. Your body temperature stays elevated. Your heart rate remains slightly higher than it should be. You're lying in bed trying to sleep, but your biology is convinced it's still afternoon. Sleep researcher Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley has spent 2 decades studying how this disruption affects us. His research shows that losing just 1 hour of sleep doesn't cost you 1 hour of cognitive function. It costs you far more. People who sleep 6 hours instead of 7 show a 40% decline in their ability to learn new information. A single night of poor sleep impairs your immune function for days. Your emotional regulation collapses. You become more likely to make bad decisions, to overeat, to snap at people you love. But here's the deeper problem. You're not just fighting against the light bulb. You're fighting against an entire culture that has pathologized the sleep pattern your body naturally wants to have. In the 1920s, sleep researchers began studying sleep in laboratory conditions using electroencephalographs, machines that measure brain activity. These machines showed that sleep happened in stages, in cycles. and that healthy sleep meant cycling through these stages continuously for 8 hours without interruption. This observation became doctrine, it became the standard, it became the only acceptable way to sleep. Anything else was labeled a sleep disorder. But what if the opposite is true? What if your body waking up in the middle of the night isn't a failure? It's actually the system working exactly as designed. This is what sleep researcher Greg Jacobs proposed in his work on segmented sleep. He suggested that the biphasic pattern your ancestors followed wasn't an evolutionary accident. It was an evolutionary feature. Those 2 hours of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night served a purpose. It was a time for the brain to process emotional memories, to consolidate learning, to solve problems that had been unsolved during the day. Some researchers believe the second sleep period was actually when REM sleep, the stage where you dream, was most prominent and restorative. Think about what happens to your mind when you lie awake at 3 in the morning in modern times. You panic. You check your phone. You think about all the things you have to do tomorrow. You feel like something is wrong with you. But what if you're not broken? What if you're just born into the wrong world? What if your body is trying to do what it's been designed to do for millions of years, and you're fighting it with everything from coffee to sleeping pills? The average person today takes 40 minutes to fall asleep, lies awake periodically during the night, and still wakes up feeling exhausted. Your ancestors took minutes. They slept in rhythm with their own biology. And they didn't wake up wondering what was wrong with them. Here's what makes this even stranger. Studies show that when people are placed in conditions without artificial light, caves, or specially darkened rooms, their sleep naturally reverts to a biphasic pattern. Your body doesn't need to be retrained. It doesn't need medication. It needs darkness. It needs permission. It needs to understand that waking up in the middle of the night is not a failure. Some sleep clinics are now experimenting with something radical. Instead of treating middle-of-the-night wakefulness as a disorder to be chemically suppressed, they're teaching patients to accept it, to embrace it, to use that hour of quiet consciousness as a gift rather than a curse. People report feeling more rested, even though they're sleeping the same amount of time. The difference is that they've stopped fighting their own biology. Modern life has given you convenience. It's given you the ability to work at night, to stay connected to people across time zones, to see in the dark. But it's taken something fundamental: the alignment between your body and your world. You're living in permanent jet lag, not because you're traveling, but because the world around you is lit like it's perpetually 2 p.m. Your ancestors knew something you've forgotten. They knew that sleep isn't a single block of unconsciousness. It's a symphony with multiple movements. It's not something to optimize or hack. It's something to listen to. The next time you wake up at 3 in the morning, resist the urge to panic. Resist the urge to check your phone. Instead, sit in the darkness. Read. Think. Let your mind wander. Understand that this moment, this quiet, conscious time in the middle of the night, might be exactly what your body has been asking for all along. You're not broken. You're not disordered. You're not failing at sleep. You're just living in a world that was designed by people who didn't understand what sleep actually is. And maybe, just maybe, the secret to better rest isn't a new app, or a better pillow, or a sleeping pill. It's permission. It's darkness. It's the simple act of trusting that your body knows how to sleep far better than your culture does.